This is the Wellness Show, episode 308. This is your host, Tyhson Banighen. If you're an entrepreneur and an empath, I can help you get out of your own way, triple your wealth as you deliver your unique gifts to the world. Give me a call, toll free, 1-866-369-7464. Welcome to the Wellness Show, a podcast on health and wealth. I'm your host, Tyhson Banighen, the founder of the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy. Join me as we get the latest insight, tips, and strategies from wellness providers, coaches, and successful, heart-centered entrepreneurs, and much, much more. All right, this is Tyhson Banighen. This is the Wellness Show on health, wealth, and enlightenment. And today, as our guest, our returning guest, is David Adelson. And we're going to be talking about world peace can happen right now. And what could be better than that? I'm ready for world peace. So welcome, David, to the show.
Thank you, Tyhson. It's a pleasure to be here. As you know, I'm a big fan of yours and have been for a long time. And I very much appreciate your audience who are all looking to improve their lives and the lives of their loved ones, and pretty much for the whole planet. We're all looking right now very actively for ways to solve the problems that cause unhappiness in the world. And I'm very grateful to be among such a noble group of people. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I know we're going to be talking about many, many things, but I can't help but ask you the question that I've been always wondering about is that what was the first contact like with Divine Mother? How did that happen in your life?
I've always had some connection to the divine, and as a little kid, I just had very clear experiences as a little kid. When I was, wow. So I don't know. I'm thinking I was like 3 or 4. And somebody had given me one of those little bows and arrow things that they give little kids. And this was back in the 50s. So it was a little wooden bow that to me was a big bow, but as an adult, I'm thinking, what was it, 2 feet for the bow, maybe 30 inches or something. And it had a very colorful striped string. It was a blue and white string. And then they gave you these wooden arrows that had these rubber suction cups on the top. It came with blue suction cups. And then they just went on and off this wooden stick. And I thought, suction cups, that's for wimps, that's for weenies. You know, I don't want to, I'm a real, you know, what was I, 3, 4, but I'm a real guy. So I want to sharpen. I had a pocket knife. I don't know who gave me that. And I took off the rubber tip and I carved the front to be very, very, very sharp. But I mean, it was pine. It was some very soft wood, but it doesn't matter. But now I thought, now I'm ready. So we lived on a long cul-de-sac that had no traffic, and we were almost at the very end. It was like a half mile from the cross street to our house. It, like 3 cars drove a week. I mean, it was ridiculous, you know. So I went out in the road and I'm shooting this arrow, and I have no control about what's going on, where it's going. I don't even know if I had a concept of aiming. And one shot I went and shot it, and it just went way up high, and it came right down on the edge of our roof. Just almost at the end, just flat on the edge of the roof, and then fell off into the bushes, which meant I get to keep playing. But I looked at it and I was like, well, now it's not sharp, but I was having fun shooting it. So I didn't want to take the time to resharpen it, thank God. So I'm out in the middle of this street and I think, how high can I shoot it? So I just aim it straight up. I mean, absolutely straight up. And I'm looking at it go straight up, and then it turns and it starts to come straight down. And that means right on me. And I'm freaked. I didn't know which way to run because I was 3 or 5 or whatever, 3 or 4. I didn't know which way to run. So I just bent over, and it's hot summer in Western Massachusetts, and I have shorts on and that's it. So there's no clothes of any kind on. And I just hopped over like that. And the thing came splat right on my right kidney and then fell over. And I realized that had it stayed sharp, had it not hit the edge of the roof, that would have gone in. And how hard, I mean, and it would have gone in from, I mean, I don't know how high it went, but it went high enough to, it would have done some damage, no question. You know, I doubt it would. And I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned. And I stood up and I looked, and there was Divine Mother on the roof of the house just taking care of me.
Wow.
And yeah, and and then later on in the 90s, it just became all the time overwhelming, kind of quite significant, which was when, do you want to hear that part too?
Well, I'm really excited because it's really the lead up to all these amazing tools that you created by working with Divine Mother. So knowing the connection and the source, and I think it's just part of the story. It's part of the legacy that when we wake up to being able to talk to Divine Mother or communicate, that it's amazing what we as little humans can do.
Yeah, it's when you know, like other people, we've all, I'm not going to go to that part because, so when in the early 90s, my oldest son was 13 at the time and was diagnosed with cancer. And that was, and I'd always had some connection, something going on, because, you know, I always, when I'd ask questions, there would be answers. I swear that's how I got through high school, because I wasn't paying a lot of attention in class, and I certainly wasn't doing homework. And I would just ask, and I would hear the answers, or things would just pop up or whatever. And when Conversations with God came out, the first version, I was reading it, and I was reading, and here's Neil Donald Walsh having this exchange with God, and I recognized the voice. I'm reading along, and this is a voice I know. I've been listening to this voice for a very long time. And then my son came down with cancer, and that was not pleasant, very challenging. All kinds of things were going on. We were living in Iowa at the time. The hospital that he was being treated at was about an hour away in Iowa City. My wife, we had another son, and he was in the hospital. My son, who was in the hospital, was in the hospital about 3 out of every 5 weeks for about 10 months. So that meant one of us would be in Iowa City and one of us would be in Fairfield with the meditating community there. And it was a shuffle, and there was a lot of stuff going on. And it was during that time that I'd be getting up after my meditation, and Lord Vishnu would show up and give me something, or Mother Mary came in the room, or Shiva, or Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who was my teacher, his master, would show up and say, and all of these, all of a sudden, over this very short period of time, this is towards the beginning of this whole thing, within, I want to say the first month, all of a sudden, within a very short time, all of these perceptions, just all heaven of all these divine beings started showing up in my life. And in Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, founder of TM, and he has a version of a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. And in the beginning of chapter 4, the first verse, basically Lord Krishna, the whole thing, for those who may not know, is a conversation between Lord Krishna, which is unbounded, absolute, and Arjuna, who is the greatest archer of his time, and a great battle is about to go on. And our Lord Krishna lets Arjuna know that it's not about the battle, it's about things that are going on inside that are most important. And so the Bhagavad Gita, which is part of the Mahabharata, is just the dialogue in I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour before the first day of this big battle that goes on for a couple of weeks. And so at this point, Arjuna, Lord Krishna has just said that he's told this knowledge that he's given to Arjuna to these great kings who have been dead for centuries. And Arjuna says, wait a minute, you were just born recently and they were born a long time ago. How can that be? And Lord Krishna says, we've all had many births. I remember mine. You don't remember yours. Don't worry about it. It's okay. You don't need to feel bad. So it's this little thing about time. And then Maharishi's commentary goes into the Vedic and Indian conception of time, which is based on eternity. And he talks about how long time is and creation and how long the various epochs or epoch of creation are. And he turns out the creation is a really, really, really long time. But in the process, when he talks about the length of span of creation, he says we start with that which has the longest lifespan in creation, and that is that of the Divine Mother. And then from the longest lifespan of creation comes different, there's so many days of so many years of that lifespan, so many months, so many days, and then one day is made up of so many days of, and then he starts enumerating all these different things. And in the Vedic tradition, the terms that they use to describe the energies and the intelligence that that governs those are Vishnu and Shiva, actually Shiva, Vishnu, and Lord Brahm. And then those are subdivided into, you know, on and on and on, years of Lord Brahm and days and all of that. And so he's talking about all this, and I'm thinking, okay, if all of these beings are showing up, I was brought up by Maharishi to just, you go for the highest. You always go for the highest truth, you for the highest of what you can find. And I took that to be a hierarchy. I took, if Divine Mother has the longest life, who could be above her? And I just said, can I work with, if that's the case, can I work with Divine Mother? And that was it. Ever since then, it's been pretty much nonstop connection with the Divine Mother. And it's been staggering and amazing. And I'm very humbled and grateful and in awe of my life and what she has let me bring to the world in the hopes of creating a better future and present for all of us. So it's very humbling. It's very humbling. So.
Well, thank you very much for that. Just two parallels. I love the fact that Arjuna had the arrow, right, and was going to war, and here's the 3-year-old you going to your make-believe war, which was the real world war as far as you were concerned. So I love that that parallel. And I love the idea that Divine Mother is the highest, and why not work with the highest? And the other part of that, what you're saying, that which is so powerful, if you don't ask, you don't receive. And that you were able to ask to work with Divine Mother, and you were granted that. Not that you weren't already working with other parts of the hierarchy, but you chose what it is that you wanted to work with. And I think that's partly key of what we're trying to get across here, is that if you don't ask, it's impossible for you to receive. So the process of asking, whether it be prayer or invocation, is really really important to get you on the road of being able to connect with the higher forces, which are really yourself, right?
Yeah. No, I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I'm not. That's what I wanted to convey. So this led into you wanting to put this into technology, right?
Well, that's a little bit later, but if you don't mind, I want to follow up because I completely so much agree with what you just said about asking. And there's 2 points I want to bring out about it. Okay. And, you know, everybody knows Harry Potter, everybody knows the Sorting Hat, and he asked, you know, and so many times, even if we ask timidly, even if we ask, I don't know if I'm worthy, I don't know if I can ask, you have nothing to lose by asking. You have nothing to lose. So I encourage everybody to know what you want and ask for it. And it's okay to change it. It's okay to let what you want evolve. It's okay to start with this and then find out that this is also available and say, yeah, can I have that? Can I have that? And one of the things that we should all be asking for is pure consciousness, just to be fully awake within ourselves, to fully appreciate all of the glories of the divine, waking, dreaming, or sleeping. I mean, just whatever it is, it's, yes, ask for the car. Absolutely ask for the new car, or the health, or the wealth, or the peace, or the whatever it is that you want. Absolutely ask for what you want, but don't stop there. Don't
Right.
stop till you're permanently happy. I, there is this story, if you don't mind, it's a little more spiritual than
Go for it.
okay. There is a story in the Vedic literature. Veda is the most ancient tradition of knowledge on the planet in India. It's thousands of years before most everything that most of us know. Had we grown up in India, it would be, you know, it's commonplace. All the school kids know about it, but in our country, it's not as common. And so these are, you know, and we've all been hearing so much lately about the native traditions of the different cultures in the world and how people are finding out both experientially and through science that a lot of the old traditional medicines or the old traditional wisdom is still something that makes a huge impact in their daily lives. Simply going for a walk in the woods, which is something that was, you know, going to bed when the sun set, you know, I mean, all of these great traditions of the world, whether it's Aboriginals in Australia or the Native Americans in North America, or Ayurveda from Veda, that there seems to be some basis of this. So Ayurveda from India is actually part of the whole Vedic library, if you will, of information that covers absolutely everything. There's like Maharishi designated 40 different, 38, 40 different, a lot of different aspects of Vedic literature, which includes, you know, health and wealth and plants and agriculture and even military. I mean, there's all these things that are covered, including many of the Vedic literature talk about the duties of the rulers of the kingdom, including the Mahabharata, which tells us this great battle between these two families, which the Gita is from. A whole middle section of it is all about how a king should be to rule. So it's quite impressive. And for those who are wondering, it's not all about just being loving and kind. It's also, you have to, like, you know, off with his head occasionally. So there is that. But within that literature, one aspect of it is the Puranas, which are Puranas, P-U-R, which tell the story of people who have lived in the past and the lives of things that have happened. And so in this, there's a story where these people go to this great saint, and they go to him and they say, you remember your life through 10 cycles of creation and dissolution. And we just talked about how long creation was. You remember your life through 10 cycles of creation and dissolution. Tell us what we should want. You know, what's worth aspiring to, you know, that will bring us permanent fulfillment. And he says nothing. He said, there's nothing in nothing in the manifest world that you can want that will bring you permanent happiness. Because everything that you at one time want will always end up being a source of sorrow, because you will get it and lose it. Because even if you get it and then you die, and he's obviously, so reincarnation is part of this and everything. But he talks about how that being fully awake, and we're talking about a society now where a lot of people are I want to be awake. And awake doesn't just mean, I mean, different people mean it different things, and more power to all of them, and much appreciation that they're even talking about it. But when we talk about being fully awake, we're talking about those states of consciousness where one is fully aligned and attuned to the unified field of all the laws of nature, pure consciousness, unbounded awareness, whatever we want to call it, through waking, dreaming, and sleeping. And those are people who have reached a level of fulfillment beyond which there's no falling back from, beyond which everything that they've ever wanted, they have the benefit of having fulfilled without having actually had to fulfill it, which means, you know, we all love, if somebody comes up to us and gives us a blank check and we know that they're billionaires and we could literally write $1 billion and they'd go, great, cash a check. In that moment where we got $1 billion, we have so much possibility of what we want. We have so many possibilities before us. Everything we want is a source of joy. We go buy the new car and it's $300,000, and out of $1 billion, great, pure joy. When we're working for, you know, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, even $75,000 a year, and we want a car that costs $50, $60, $70,000, we finance it because that is a pinch. You know, yes, we want the car, but there's a pinch. We love living in that state of, I can do anything. And in that state of fully awake, we have that unboundedness fully present. So it isn't so much that I can do anything, but rather I have the benefit of having done everything. So we're starting on a level of fulfillment, and then everything we do is just automatically right, automatically for the good of everyone. It's an amazing state. So
And full of joy, I would assume.
And absolute bliss, absolute bliss, absolute bliss all the time.
So that would mean, you know, and I've been reading the book, The Soul's Journey, in which we make these decisions before we incarnate with our soul group about what it is that we want to learn in this incarnation. And it looks like we learn the positive and negative because on the soul level, there's no judgment. It's just pure experience, right?
Right.
And so good, bad, or indifferent has no value there, which really is humbling for me because I don't know about you, but I've judged so many things around me. But once I read The Soul's Journey, I've got no basis on which to judge. I have no idea what that incarnation for that person on the soul level is all about. Even if he's the poorest person on the street, he may be having the most divine experience that he needs for his soul growth. And I have no way of knowing that. So it's very humbling. But if I'm understanding what you're saying, is that even that need to incarnate must go away when you have that opportunity to be joyful in the sense that you have the ability to experience anything and everything, but you don't need to do it. You don't need to live through it. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. Yes. But the thing is right now but that's the thing about it is, you're right about the judgment thing. And I just want to comment about that for a moment, because the way we look at it is, I had some friends sitting at the dining room table one night, and I had some friends over. Divine Mother said, explain this to them about creation. And she said, unbounded, unified field, unbounded awareness, whatever you want to call it, consciousness. Now, everything comes from that. This is how science explains things. Everything comes from that. So she said, so in and of itself, it doesn't need anything, but it hears a rumor that it has all possibilities within it, all the possibilities of everything. It says it hears a rumor that it has all possibilities within it, and it goes, cool, let me see what that looks like, and gets all excited. Little kid starts jumping up. What else? You know, what else? What do you got? What's there for Christmas? I mean, anybody who's seen the kid on his birthday or Christmas or whenever they're expecting, you know, this is the favorite uncle coming, and what is he bringing me? And they get all excited. So it gets all excited, and waves happen, and then they start interacting, and boom, out comes creation. Now, from its side, from the side of unboundedness or the side of the unified field, whatever, what it cares about is, let me see what I can do. Now, anything that it does is cool.
Mm-hmm.
So it creates planets, and it creates people, and it creates frogs and turtles, and it creates people, and it creates people who laugh and people who do good things for the world. And it creates World War II, where millions of people get killed. And from its side, and this is the whole point about what you were just saying about no judgment, from the side of unboundedness, which is our own consciousness when it's fully awake, from the side, all that's thinking is, that is awesome. Look at that. Look at that is incredible. And then it looks at heaven and it goes, that is awesome. Look how cool that is. And just as you're talking about, it doesn't see a good or bad. It doesn't see a right or wrong. It just sees, this is a different flavor within me that I am enjoying the experience of. And so when we look at, our own lives, and so many of us, and I want to be really careful here, because I understand there are things that we believe that are right and wrong based on whatever traditions we come from. And we all know that it's, or we should know that it's wrong to kill, and that is good to support life, and basically, a few simple things like this. But that those things aside, whether we turn left or turn right, whether we wear this shirt or that shirt, whether we end up with this partner or that partner, or whether we decide to, oh, I'm a lowly person and I'm not worthy and therefore I suffer, or whether we're, egotistical Donald Trump who is only about himself and doesn't give I'm going to be polite, not say about anyone else on the planet. Just whatever we are, as far as unbounded is, those are just choices. Those are experiences. And from its side, it's just going, that's cool. What else can I do? Ooh, I can be this unpleasant person. And oh, I can be this saint. Wow, cool. Absolutely cool. In Conversations with God, he points out that that even Hitler went to heaven. And in the Mahabharata, the end of it, so there's this big war between different factions of the same family. And one of them over and over, one side, one over and over and over and over and over, just does the dishonorable thing, does the sneaky thing, does the thing that most of us would say is bad. And in the end, after this battle, everyone is in heaven, and they were cousins. So they're all in heaven, and they're all in heaven. So, this idea of passing judgment, one of the first books I read about somebody who died and came back.
Right.
Sorry, I don't remember the name of it. Light, something about light and angels, light, I don't know. Anyway, she died. She had this experience where she's going around with these three, and we'll call them three beings. I think she might have referred to them as angels or beings. And at one point in the time that she's not in her physical body, they take her to the street and they show her this homeless alcoholic. And they say, what do you think of him? And she does just what you or I would do, what most of us would do, what society has taught us to do. He's not contributing to society. He's a drain on society. Therefore, we think very lowly of him. We think, oh, even in the best, we just think maybe compassion, but she wasn't going there. She was just like, oh, this is like, ugh. And they said, no, 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 no. And they all lit up with delight and they praised this person. And they said, he's actually a really high divine being who is doing this in support of a friend. He just came to earth and is putting himself through this to do something kind and loving to somebody that he cared about, which really starts changing. I know that there are homeless people or addicts of one kind or another on this planet who are here because those are the choices that they made, which maybe were not life-supporting choices. And they ended up that way. And you have to feel sorry for them, that what the circumstances were that led to that. From the level of unboundedness, cool, what else can I do? From the level of human decency and compassion, right now, thank God, there's an upswing in compassion for these people who are saying, you know, how can we help them? How can we help them? 50 years ago, it would have been, how can we hide them away and get rid of them? Now the world is, how can we help them? And
It's
I
interesting
don't,
because, and when you're talking about our soul's journey, you know, that person who is addicted in this book, a lot of the choices they're making and to have that experience to balance out in their soul group an experience that was on the other side. They don't see it as good or bad. They see it as, like you said, the unboundedness of, well, that was cool. I get to experience both the yin and the yang of this, both sides of the fence that I can balance out and know that I've experienced it all. And that really leaves us, you know, it leaves me with really having to reconsider how I judge or don't judge. So I'm really trying to come to the point of, you know, from the point of view, that's okay. It's all right. It is.
yeah. And here's the really, again, two things real quick. The first thing is, what do we care? Why am I using my time when there are literally millions of things that can grab my attention, especially with the internet, you know, literally millions of things that can grab my attention that I can choose that can bring me joy. Why am I bothering to pass judgment on something that is so completely far removed from me as somebody that I'm driving by on the street or walking by on the street and may never see again? So if I'm driving by, what are we talking? A minute tops? And we take the time to look at that and say, oh, I better make a judgment about this. So I want to point out this thing about the homeless again, because, and just go a little bit more into detail, because one of the things that has become very clear to me, again, from Divine Mother, is there are those people that we just talked about that are homeless because of bad choices, but there are also homeless addicts who are homeless addicts because they have been in massive, I'll call them divine wars, where they've seen horrible, horrible things. And the remedy for their PTSD is to come and have a life with zero responsibilities, with altered states, to just, that's their medicine. Instead of spending a life in some cosmic hospital, they come to Earth where they're homeless and they're drunks or heroin addicts or whatever they are. And it's just to clear them for whatever comes next. And it's their reward for having done good.
Yes.
Now, knowing that when you see somebody who's homeless or an addict or something like that, knowing they could be somebody who, because of the educational system, because of the society, because of the demands of, you know, we all have to work, even though economically that doesn't even make sense anymore. Coming from that tradition, how can we look at them who have fallen on ill fortune and say, you know, thumbs down to that person, and especially knowing that some of them may be having experiences that you and I pray for every single day. You have no idea who has it, who's just as, you have no idea who's in an insane asylum who is among the most enlightened people living on the planet. And we think, oh, we better lock them away because they're saying weird stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it gets even more difficult when we start to think about politics, and that we're forced in our political system, both yours and mine in Canada and U.S., to think about yin and yang, the good and the bad, or we have to choose this side or that side, or it really, it's set up to us in a polarized way so that there's no way to choose unity consciousness in the way that the structure. So part of this is what, if I'm understanding correctly, is, why do we need to focus on that trauma that's going on at that level when what they're doing is for whatever reason, something they need to work out for themselves, when on a higher state of consciousness, that's no longer relevant. It's no longer relevant because it's not part of our world. And in fact, in not dwelling it anymore, we're helping bring let's call it the new heaven on earth into place, because we're not focusing on that. We're not allowing it to dominate our time with judgment or criticism, or that Donald guy is doing this craziness again. We know that we see it, but we don't necessarily have to react to it.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have, that's exactly right, Tyson. We don't have to react or respond to it in any way, shape, or form. I mean, we can drive down the street and there are all kinds of wonderful things to see. And there are some things that may not be as wonderful. And it's our, our happiness for each of us is our own responsibility. It's up to us. I'm the one who gets to decide where I put my attention. So here's the thing, consciously or unconsciously, we are co-creators of our life. You live in Canada by choice. You could move to Alaska. You live on the West Coast. You could move to the East Coast. You could move farther north. You could move to Topanga Canyon here in California. You could move to Tierra del Fuego at the tip of South America. You could go wherever you want to go. And you made a choice to be where you are. Now, you made a choice about what to wear, who you hang out with. All of these things are choices that you've made. Again, and since we're talking about some of the things that were decided before we were born, knowingly or unknowingly, we've put ourselves in whatever situation that we're in, and we're experiencing whatever we're experiencing. So we're co-creators. We're definitely significantly responsible for where we are and what we're experiencing. So having created an experience for ourselves, what the next thing that we do is we pass judgment on it. We say, this is a good experience, and therefore I like myself. This is a bad experience, and therefore I don't like somebody because maybe I'm not willing to accept responsibility, and I blame X, Y, and Z, and maybe I blame somebody who's in the capital of my country or the capital of my state or the mayor of my city or the person who lives next door who's making noise and keeping me up at night, or the dog or the people who own the dog, that I'm going to pass judgment and say this is wrong. And wrong means this is not something that I would, first of all, we're choosing to notice, then we're choosing to pass judgment, then having passed judgment, and what we're talking about is what our responsibility is, having passed judgment, we then make a choice about how we're going to respond or react. So, my mother was cooking one day when we were very little, and she put an egg on the table for whatever she was baking. And while she was doing that and stirring something over here, the egg started rolling and rolling and rolling to the edge of the table. And with her fast reaction, my mother slammed on, she didn't want the egg on the floor, so she slammed down to stop the egg, which may not have been the smartest thing in the first place, but she caught it just as the egg was on the edge of the table. So the table's here, the egg rolls down to here, and she slams it right here. So not only did it get on the table, it also got all over the floor. Now, you could, so many choices, depending on, again, how fulfilled, how happy we are inside. If she was having a great time, we all know somebody who just loves, who just is happy, who will have that experience and just laugh at the absurdity that they couldn't have done anything to make that worse, and they would laugh at it just as you are now. Or you could go to the opposite end of the thing and, oh my God, this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. This has ruined my whole day. And oh my God, I'm going to wish hell and brimstone and fire on everybody because of it. But all of those things are choices. And we notice that sometimes as time goes by, what troubled us at one point, now we're neutral to, and then it might even become amusing. So, so many people who had uncomfortable relationships while they were in school, middle school, elementary school, high school. And then they get together and they see these people at reunions, 20, not the 10-year reunion, but 20 years, 30 years, 40 years later. And the differences don't matter. They just don't matter. I'm so glad to see someone who has a shared experience of some of the things that I went through, remembers this class, remembers this teacher, remembers the war in Vietnam or whatever was going on when they were kids, who likes the same music, and all of the things, whether they were, you know, the geek or the jock or the Chesko, what, all of the differences don't matter. And some of these people who despised each other in high school are so grateful to see each other 30, 40 years later. So why couldn't they get along in high school? And that's what's happening in the world. That's, you know, that we're learning, just as you're talking about, that we're not here to pass judgment on anyone, including ourselves. And when we follow that process that I was just talking about we're the co-creators, we put ourselves in the situation, we then pass judgment on the situation, we then decide how to respond or react to the situation, and then based on that, we may even pass judgment on whether we liked the response that we did or not. So more judgment, it just gets in the way. But here's the really true question. In any given moment, the question that we really want to be asking ourselves is, who do I want to be? And what do I want to experience? We're not saying it's anything wrong with being the good guy in the white hat in an old Western or the bad guy in the dark suit, because, you know, yin and yang, as you talked about, you know, the bud has to be destroyed for the flower to bloom. Those who are loving the flower can't condemn whoever, whatever intelligence, whatever agency destroyed the bud. You can't go and say, oh, what a horrible thing you did.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So if peace is not as closer in the world than we think, then this is really just an upper level of what we're talking about, right?
Exactly. Because here's the thing that so many look at, and again, it's just, what do we choose to look at?
Right.
You can look at World War II and go, oh my God, the torturing that they did and the 6 million Jews, you know, and the, you know, so many people didn't come home and all the people that died and all of this. And you could get into that, or you could look at it and say, yeah, whatever it was that caused it, the growth of technology that has happened since then has been unsurpassed in human evolution. We are talking now, you are in Canada, I am in Southern California. We can see each other. We can see the background. We're talking, we're sharing stories and everything. 100 years ago, in fact, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, this was the pie in the sky imagination. You can go back to, and so now, why is this happening? Had World War II not happened, the technology and the unification and the focus to develop these kinds of things, you know, we'd still be driving cars, but maybe we wouldn't have as many. So many benefits came from that. So many good things that just, you know, I'm sure it's very similar in Canada, but the way of life of most people shifted very dramatically because of, you know, the 50s were a boom time in the United States. People were buying. You want to hear a funny story?
Go for it.
My father's down payment on the first house that I lived in that I remember as a kid, it's a little nice ranch house at the end of this cul-de-sac where somebody gave me a bow and arrow. This house, my father's down payment was, he didn't have any money, so he painted the house. He was, instead of them hiring somebody else to paint the house, he painted the house, and that was his down payment. And his monthly payment was $83 a month for this house, for his family, for his wife and 3 kids. And it's a nice house. I mean, it was a nice house, nice basement, which my dad fixed up and he painted and he did all these things to it. beautiful backyard, a nice size on the street with lots of other, kids my age, within a year or two. The whole baby boomer thing that happened and the economy and all of that, that wouldn't have happened without World War II, which means the Apple computer wouldn't have happened without World War II. So when we look at World War II in the future, how do we want to talk about it? Well, it wasn't really a great thing, but you have a beautiful seed. You take a seed and you look at a seed and they're gorgeous. They're shiny and they're symmetric and they're all of this, and you put it in the ground, and what's the first thing that happens? Blows up and it looks horrible. It's got white little big creepy things going this way and that, and this shell is gone and this symmetry. It's all looks like, oh my God. Doesn't look like something you'd want to curl up in bed with on a coat on a summer night. It looks like and then from that, even the first sprouting that comes above the ground is white till it turns green, and then eventually this turns into the beautiful rose or the eggplant or the broccoli that we eat or the tree that shades us and provides fruit, whatever it is. But the first thing that happens is it goes from something gorgeous to something not gorgeous. Can we say, oh, that's ugly? That's a bad thing to happen? How can we get it so seeds don't do that anymore?
Right. So it's our judgment. So you're saying that our perception of ain't it awful on the planetary level that many, many people are stuck in could mean that it's like the seed that's breaking open and it looks a little ugly, and we're about to be sprouting into a brand new world or a brand new rose or a brand new creation or something totally different.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And the big thing is the passing judgment is, I don't know if you've seen my happiness video. Lovely little video. And the first thing that I talk about is it's actually easier to be happy than to not be happy. And the way that we're happy is that we stop spending our time judging things that don't make us happy.
Right.
That we're just
Right.
adding a work step. So when there's a movie called Slumdog Millionaire that came out a couple years ago, and did well. It might have won an Academy Award or what, I don't remember. It got a lot of publicity, and the producer, the guy who did it, Danny Boyle, said they went to Mumbai in India, in the slums of Mumbai, which are they're famous for being the worst place in the world. And he said when they went, he said they expected it to be massively depressing and horrible and pain and all of this. And he said instead, they were the happiest people he'd ever seen anywhere. They don't know where the next meal is coming from. And that's been the case for, a generation or two, whether they can find work, whether they can find food, whether they have electricity or not, whether they have heat or air conditioning or whatever. And he said they were the happiest people. The whole slum were just happy people. So when we look at something, we're the co-creators. We get to decide. We pass judgment. We choose our response. And our response could be in every single thing, either, I don't care, I don't mind, or, hey, that makes me happy, and notice my happiness.
Yeah, I have a friend who lives in bliss 24/7, and I've interviewed her a number of times. And the question I asked her was, well, how do you do this? She said, I just chose it.
Yeah, that's exactly
I
right.
just kept choosing it. And she said, the more I chose it, it became. And she said, now I fall down, I skin my leg, I start laughing. It's a choice I've made, right? And so she's in bliss 24/7, 365, and lives that way.
Yes,
Who doesn't want that?
that's exactly right. And exactly what she said. It's just a choice. Those people who live in gratitude are choosing to live in gratitude. So now let's get back to, if you don't mind, and tell me how we're doing for time.
Oh, we're not to worry about time because this is important. But
Okay.
while we want to take this to the planetary level, we want to know how we do this collectively, and how do we create a unified field that literally births the new earth, or heaven on earth, or however we want to describe it.
Yeah, the fun thing is we don't have to create the unified field. We're from the unified field.
It's already here, right?
All we have to do is get out, basically get out of the way. Just what
Yeah,
we're talking about. Stop passing judgment. Stop getting in our own way. Start choosing the happiness. Start choosing. I met somebody this past weekend at this seminar workshop thing I was at, who said exactly the same thing. Older gentleman who's just like, there are so many things to enjoy. Why not choose to enjoy them? There are so many things to be grateful for. Why not choose to be grateful? Well, there's many levels. So at least on the superficial level, let's stop, just as you're talking about, let's stop criticizing anybody for anything. We don't know their story. We have no idea what happened to them 5 minutes ago.
Right.
There are so many uplifting stories from, what is the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, or other, so many stories of people who were upset about somebody only to discover that they were upset that this person didn't do something, and something really tragic had happened to that person just before. The fact that they even showed up was huge, was monumental. So the first thing to do is, everybody's got their own stuff. Everybody's got stuff. And the best thing that we can do on the most superficial level is just love and support each other. Just absolutely love and support each other. This 9-year-old girl I was at a thing for podcasters for the past 3 days. And she has a podcast that she's had for 3 years. And again, the people coming in are absolutely amazing. And she's definitely one of them. I don't remember her last name. Her first name is Neva, N-E-V-A. And she got this little talk about her thing. She does a podcast for kids. And when she gave her a little thing, and she said, after all we have to do is love and be human. That's it. That's all we have to do. It's really simple. Just love and be human. And when you start doing that, you would be stunned at how many things don't need fixing. So many things just don't need fixing. So
a perspective that's a little bit different. I mean, we keep hearing about the doomsday clock, that we're 6 seconds away from doom or whatever, doom and gloom or whatever. But you're saying that we are so close to, let's call it enlightenment, or another way of seeing the world collectively, much closer than most people think we are. You want to just say
absolutely. I firmly believe that in the next very short time, things are going to be so different. They'll be as unrecognizable to us from here looking forward as this world would be from somebody literally 50 years ago.
Right.
Everybody's seen or not everybody, but a lot of people have seen the Captain America movie, where he gets frozen at the end of World War II, and he comes back in whatever it was 15 years ago, whenever they made the movie 10 years ago. And he comes back in Times Square, and he's looking at a world that is literally inconceivable to him from his background. The fact that he adjusted without going insane and maintained superhero status, my God.
Oh, there you are, a living example.
But the point is that I think things are going to turn around. First of all, I believe in, I don't know what you want. I believe that there are some quantum and unified field technologies that are about to come out, and some of them already have. And humbly, there's some things that I've had the great honor to bring out. And there are so many more that can do so many different things. And here's the big thing, and this is why I believe this. First of all, I think that the vast majority of the world's biggest problems, and I mean biggest problems, won't be here within a dozen years. I think that they're going to be gone. And that means war and starvation and all the big ones, all the big top check marks. There might be still some bruisey level things.
Right.
that still need to be taken care of. But all the big ones are, I think, are going to be resolved in the next dozen years or so. Why? Because there are so here's the thing. We're moving. Some people talk about, and I know your audience will get this, some people talk about we're moving from a 3D world to a 5D world. We tend to talk about it more as we're moving. And this is not an understanding. This is a physical reality that's happening. We're moving from a Newtonian physics-based world, which is all about causality.
Mhm.
It says, Newtonian physics, I'm sorry, we're moving from a Newtonian physics where everything is about causality. And literally one of the laws of Newtonian physics is a body in motion stays in motion until acted upon by an outside force. Causality.
Mhm.
Nothing happens unless something else causes it to happen. And that's wonderful. And we've made some really great advances in our comfort, like we were just talking about, based on that. Okay. But now we're moving into quantum and unified field technologies. And how does the quantum field work? Well, you tickle it over here and it laughs over here. If you look at, Feynman diagrams and all these things from decades ago that are now becoming commonplace, what happens is nothing's going on. A photon pops into existence for no reason whatsoever, and then moves backwards in time, and then does whatever else it does, or it moves forward. So what you find is that things can just pop up for no reason. And when things can pop up for no reason, all possibilities reigns. That means that I don't, so far, so many of us base our goals and our lives and what we want on the process of, if I do X, I will get Y.
Right.
If I go to school, I'll get the degree. If I get the job, I'll get the money. If I get the money, I can get the house, the car, the girl, the guy, the new shoes, my watch, whatever it is. If I do A, I get B. But in quantum unified field physics, it just pops up for no reason. So why not just literally ask for what you want? Don't ask for the stepping stone, ask for what you want.
Right.
Okay. Right. So now because of this, you look at and everything is functioning on a much more subtle, profound level of manifestation. So right now, Newtonian physics says, oh, the fastest thing is the speed of light, which is 186, blah, 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 blah. Okay. But then we hear the stories of these people who have had exchanges with beings from other planets and other galaxies who say, yeah, it takes about a week to get here. And they're way more than that distance in light. There are fun shows like Stargate, and all of these things which talk about technologies that are so new. And we sit and we say, oh, that's very cool. And now we're starting to, we're not thinking, the thinking of the creatives is no longer thinking, wow, what if? They're now thinking, wow, how can we? How can we? How can we do this? How can we build stargates that let us go from here to there and, so fast? Because, for instance, there was a discovery a couple of years ago where they discovered this huge amount of water in space. Huge, just pure droplets of the purest water ever, just all over in space, big enough to fill 27 Earths. Which means we could replace, not just replace the water and that much, but the size of the Earth, pure water, 27 of them in this big thing way over here, absolutely pure, pristine water. But it's like 10 million light years away or some crazy, but here's the thing, can we make a straw? I don't know. The thing is that so many people these days are trying to solve the world's problems, and kudos to all of them. The fact that you're trying, my God, I'm so grateful. The fact that you're addressing getting the trash out of the ocean or getting rid of the pollution in the air or whatever you're doing, you know, I'm on my knees in gratitude to you, because at least you're forward thinking. At least you're thinking about life and not something else. You're thinking about, what can I do to improve the life of my fellow citizens, to honor the earth, whatever your motivation is. It's compassion, it's kindness. And so I totally am a well-wisher and a supporter of all of them. But the answers are not going to be found at this time, where we're switching from 3D to 5D, or where we're switching from Newtonian to quantum. It's not going to be found through the technology that has gotten us here.
You know, I had an opportunity to work with a gentleman who's passed on in my community, who was able to design over Unity engines and technology coming from Victor Schellberg and people like that. And I said, and we were fortunate to meet with him once a week for 3 or 4 months and learn about these technologies. And I said, well, why are we learning about these technologies? And he said to me, well, because as humans, we have to see it in the technology before we can understand that we can do it with inside of ourselves. And I find, whoa, okay, now I get it. This is why we play outside of ourselves with all these, you know, mechanical sets, or, you know, or erector sets, or however you want to call it, linked on logs, or whatever, you know, or
Legos.
Lego, is because we're trying to learn how to manifest inside of ourselves, right? And if we can do it outside of ourselves, we go, that's how you do it. I don't know if it's create
inside of ourselves. No, I totally get that. Do you want to go there for a minute?
Well, I think, you know, if we're going to create the heaven on earth, if we're going to do this tomorrow morning, then some of these concepts about, yes, we need to choose, we need to ask, right? These are all fundamental principles about how to do this, right?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's go here. I'm going to come back to the quantum stuff in a minute about the technologies.
All right, well, you can keep on going with the quantum if you want.
No, I want, as long as you brought this up, let's go there. Because the truth is, there was some master, some guru was teaching in and I don't remember who it is, and he's somebody mainstream right now, and I apologize to him that I can't remember his name. But his one of the disciples asked him, how shall I treat others? And his response was, there are no others. And we talked about the co-creator and the process and the level of co-creation that we have is far more than virtually anyone is willing to accept the responsibility of. You know, there's that famous quote that says people aren't afraid of their darkness, they're afraid of how bright and how powerful and they are and how significant they are. It is much easier. When we start accepting responsibility for ourselves, automatically, if I'm having this experience, if I stub my toe, if I cut myself, if I say something that causes someone else pain, if I own that, that's my responsibility. That's hugely empowering, because then I go, what is it within me that needs to shift so that I don't do this again? Okay, again, it's these choices that we're making. So the bottom line point is that there's a line from the Vedic literature that says the macrocosm, meaning the whole literally universe out there, not just the block that we live on, but the whole universe, that same intelligence that is out there is also in us. We already know that iridology and reflexology and palmistry and whatever it is for the ears and again the tongue, and over again the coding is there that says you can find out anything about the entire body from your ears, from the bottom, from your feet, from the iris, iridology. There are people who can do it from the tongue. There are people who can do it from your pulse. There are people over and over again. There are so many ways to find out what's going on in the body, including a stethoscope, you know, and a microscope. So many ways to find out what's going on in the body. It's the same body, but God in infinite wisdom and Divine Mother, they said, oh, here's the puzzle. Here's so many ways you can solve the puzzle. So many ways you can solve it. Oh, you're not going to get it this way, you know, try that way, you know. So there's I don't know if you've seen it. There's a TV show called The Good Place, and at one point, this more celestial, eternal being is talking to a bunch of humans, and they go, "Oh, we got you the 4 clues that you left us," and he said, "Well, actually, I left you 32,642 clues. Glad you got 4 of them." You know, so we are missing things right and left.
Right.
There is a gentleman named Dr. Tony Nader, who has a couple degrees. He's an MD, and I don't even remember the other day. And he worked with Maharishi, and he created a book called The Vedic Human Physiology. And he went through all of these aspects of Vedic literature, all of these 40, and he found one-to-one correspondence to everything that they talk about in all of the Vedic literature, which is sometimes described in terms of stories. So when we look at the British arriving in India, and they did a great disservice to Indians in many levels, but one of them was when they heard the stories, they said, "Oh, that's mythology," and they called the main characters gods, small g gods. Oh, you have, you know, karma, and you have Varuna, or you have all of these things, and they named them small g gods. But a more accurate description is their qualities of intelligence. So if you understand that they're qualities of intelligence, and they're being described in a way, look, if you go to school and I tell you that if you take oxygen and hydrogen and you mix it together, you're going to get water. Okay, hydrogen, oxygen, H2O, and you're going to get water. Now go home and memorize those statistics, those facts, and come back and I'll put it to you on a test. Well, not only is that not fun, it's a stress, and there's nothing. But what if we say, oh, there's this being Varuna, and he gets together with Vayu, and when they get together, their offspring is Datri. And this is the story of how they got together. They met in the woods, and this is the sun and this, and maybe there was a battle about it, and then everybody remembers it, and they're getting the exact same information, except one is very relatable in an oral culture, and the other one is like, are you kidding me? When am I going to use H2O? When am I going to be shopping, getting gas, when in my life am I going to be in a position where this information, unless I become a chemist, where this information is fun and practical? So what the British did is they didn't realize that in the Vedic literature was the answer to all of their problems if they knew how to interpret it. But to be honest, I don't know how much India knew it either at the time. So, you know. Anyway, so we really want to look at, because the point that we're making, Tyhson, is that you're absolutely right. If the macrocosm is contained in the microcosm, if we find fault, if we find a flaw, if we find something that we want to change in the world around us, then the most powerful and effective place to do that is within us. So if we want to live in a society where everybody is mutually supportive of everyone else, where do we want to start? By getting everybody else, by telling you all need to change, let's all get in a group and we're going to chant this thing together, and I'll be nice, I'll be nice, I'll be nice. And then somebody's baby keeps them up all night. The neighbor's dog is barking all day. They get up in the morning, they can't tie their shoes, they trip falling down the stairs. They can't find a parking place. Somebody does a fender bender, and they get into work, and if they haven't consciously made and cultivated the choice of bliss, like that woman talked about, when they get into work, the first person to say the wrong thing to them, to hand them something that isn't what they were hoping it would be, you know, the waitress in the coffee shop, what's their response? Doesn't matter how many times they chanted that. If they haven't fixed within themselves as a co-creator of my life that, oh, if I'm having a bad day, this is a bad day. I'm taking the day off. If this is the day that nothing is going to work out, and we all have them, you know, if this is the day nothing's going to go, I'm on Easy Street. I don't have to try today. It's not going to work. It doesn't matter. So I'm just going to goof off. I'll go through the motions, but I'm not going to take anything seriously because, oh, this is the yang day. This is the whatever day. Oh, got it. That's just one of those days. So I'll get home and I won't let anything bother me because, oh yeah, it's that day. This is that day. So I won't let it bother me. And then I don't blow up when this happens. Oh, the shoe broke too. Yep. We'll check that. How many more things, you know, we'll just check them off. Okay. This went wrong. That one. Yeah. This is living up to that day. This is that day. All right. You know, and then it's gone. And then 2 years go by, or how many long time before we have such a bad day again? Maybe never. But, you know, we make the choice about whether we want things to be life-defining moments or not. You know, I have a friend who totaled his car. He told 2 people. He just mentioned it to 2 people, and he never mentioned it to anybody else, not even members of his family. And he said, and when I asked him about it, because I was one of the 2, he said, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy who is in an accident. I don't want to be known as a guy who was in an accident that somebody hit and run and totaled my car, which was a fun car, and then ran off. And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want, that's it. Just, yeah, it happened, moving right along, you know? I want to be the guy that does this in the world, that has these experiences. Right. You know, I want to be the guy that stops hurricanes. So, or whatever they want to do.
Right.
I want to get back to these technologies because, again, something bad can be turned around to something good. You know, who was it? Abraham Lincoln, who said, if I can make my enemy my friend, haven't I destroyed my enemy? You know, if I can take that which has been doing bad and turn it around to something that's doing good. So right now we have those, and I'm sure you have them where you are too, those high tension wires that carry electricity long distances through the countryside. And for those people who are fortunate or unfortunate enough to live nearby where these transformer plants are, there's all kinds of evidence that they have greater risks of cancer and, you know, yada, 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 yada. It's all this stuff that happens to the health of these people. And so, and we have other people who say, you know, and even being near those high tension where you need to be so far away, otherwise it's damaging the plants and it's doing this. And there isn't vegetation where these, you know, they go through and they cut it down, everything, and there's a big wide path where it goes through the mountains and stuff where nothing's growing. And nothing's growing for a couple of reasons. And one of them is they don't allow anything to grow there because they don't want it to get tangled on the wires. But secondly, nobody wants to grow there, you know? So because it's causing these non-life supporting vibrations. But these grids go everywhere. They go through the desert, they go through the cities, they go through everywhere. And it turns out that there is a technology that will be coming out. And I actually have one friend that's working on it. And I know there are others. I want to say, well, I know there's at least 4 or 5, maybe more. And there is a modulator that you can put on, I don't know if it's an oscillator or modulator, I don't know quite what you call it, but there's a thing that you can put on that's basically a switch that you put on at the base of these, and you change the frequency that the electricity is going, and 2 things are going to happen. The electricity will flow through more efficiently with less loss of power, so it's pure when it gets through to the other side. It'll pick up less stuff and it's pure, but also it will start going from damaging those that live nearby it to fabulously, incredibly, 1000% nourishing it, to literally change deserts into oases, into these huge oases where things will grow. And when we look at, how much land there is in the world and, the possibility of making food for everyone, when you look at deserts where nobody is living for, in many cases, hundreds of miles, and you can turn that into paradise, that is huge. That is amazing. And once these switches are in, it may not be literally overnight, but it's really fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fast that things will start growing there. And the first thing to grow is, gardens. And so now you look at the very crowded cities and you go, people don't want to live in, 27 floors, 87 floors, whatever. They want to get spread out because that's better for us. That's more natural to us. And where are we going to put them? Because they want to live where it's nice and comfortable and all of that. And when you take a desert, which most of them are in a warm area, and you make it tropical in the sense of all of the blessings of the tropics and not the bad stuff, oh yeah, let's go there,
Right.
with the beautiful fruits and the trees and the flowers and everything. And, you've got countries that are basically like that. I mean, huge countries. So, and so there are technologies that I've seen, a technology that literally that cleared the air during the 70s overnight in LA from smog to the purest it has ever been, with no storms, no wind blowing, no rain, no anything. It just, these quantum energies they wake up the life supporting laws of nature and they put to sleep the other. Where did the smog go? It just gone.
Disappeared.
It
I
just,
know Simon Sperling created such a thing where harmonizer and that cleared all of the fog and purified the air. So, and it was, they're not that huge, right? They're not that big, but they just generate a field that does that.
yeah. And so you start looking at what other problems. So there will be rays, things that they shoot out. There will be generators but all of these are going to do it from the quantum level, where an insurmountable problem becomes very easy. Because for me to move this rock of a problem from here to there, I need to get the bulldozer. So I've got all of these plastic bottles in the ocean. I've got huge amount of plastic bottles in the ocean. How am I going? The only way to get rid of them from Newtonian physics is I have to physically do something with them. Okay? Which is another thing to talk about is, why are we living in a world where everybody knows that the plastic bottle manufacturers, that the plastic is going to take however long to dissipate, although they've now found this, a worm or whatever it is that eats plastic.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool. So that's pretty cool. But why are all of this about pollution and all of the trash that's being handed, and down here where you can't do single-use plastic bags anymore because they know bad things about them. But here's the thing: they're dumping it on the consumer. We're going to put out we're putting out something that you have to deal with. But as a manufacturer, I'm not taking responsibility to the fact that there is packaging that I can use that will be gone in 3 months. I'm not owning the responsibility. Well, pretty soon they're going to start owning it, because people are going to be demanding it as people wake up. It's like, I'm sorry, Pepsi-Cola, not only are you not good for me, or Coca-Cola or whatever it is, not only are you not good for me, but what the heck? If I'm going to do this bad thing anyway, which may or may not be bad, because again, one man's poison and it's another man's medicine, and we're not passing judgment. But again, so many people, and again, a simple technology, so many people are having so many health problems. What if it turns out that they add one drop in a huge vat of Coca-Cola? They just add this one drop, and they don't have to change anything else about the formula, and it doesn't have to change anything else about anything about the formula, but they put this one drop in a vat that makes enough bottles for 500,000 people, and that one drop changes their blood paint changes so that instead of the Coca-Cola being damaging to them, it's now a super potent it's a super potent healer for them. And everybody's used to buying this.
Yeah, I know. In my world, there's the possibility of doing that with water. That there's a technology that I know about that will take impure water. You don't have to use chlorine. It's actually hypochlorous acid. It's something innate in our body and present in our body. It cleans up all toxicity in the water. Just cleans it up.
Yeah.
And the plants love it. You love it, and you got clean water.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Is there are these very simple solutions, and we look, and you hear me talk about maybe begrudgingly about Coca-Cola, but to be honest, I was never a big fan of carbonated drinks when I was a kid ever. They just fizzed too much in my mouth. Whatever reason, it doesn't matter, you know. But that's just there are certain things that on one level we think these are the things that are damaging people, and these are the things that are damaging people massively. But what if the very same things that have been damaging, we do a little thing from the quantum level and it just flips the plate over, just completely 180 degrees. They're already used to doing it. You don't have to teach them anything. You don't have to change anything about the way that they're going in their lives. And yet suddenly they're healthier. Suddenly there's less traffic accidents. There's more harmony in their family. They're more loving. They're more moving towards nourishing things, which quite frankly may include, maybe I don't want to drink this anymore. Maybe I don't, I don't know. There's all these, George Burns smoked a cigar every day of his life, lived to be 100 and whatever it was, Right. So for all of these things that this is bad for you, there is somebody, and in some cases, many people, that's the best thing for them,
Yeah. It's interesting because working with a Mayan shaman, he said anything around you that's toxic to you, there's an antidote, like a plant, there's an antidote within 5 steps of that plant.
Yeah. And Ayurveda says basically the same thing, that wherever there is this, there's that. And so, the remedies that are coming are going to be massively effective, ridiculously simple, and they're all going to be, a flip of a switch, a drop of this, a turn of the dial. They're all going to work from a different level. And again, if we understand the process of manifestation, it's, the unified field, then the quantum level, then the more physical Newtonian physics level, and on and on. So if we fix it from this level, it's like working on this level of the sap of the tree, or even the seed of the tree, you can affect the whole tree. So it's incredibly exciting. And we know of so many things that are being done that are just amazing, which, if you don't mind, brings us to the world peace thing that we were talking about and how you can have it overnight. And I know there are others. I know there are large groups of people who are practicing advanced meditation techniques, working for the good of the world, which are very, very powerful, and I give my absolute full support to. Not that it needs, but I mean, these are people that I honor and hold in high esteem. There are different traditional chanting groups or medicine groups or something in many traditional cultures who know how to elicit the vibrations in nature that bring the laws of nature into more harmony, and they're all doing in their respective places. They're all doing good, and everyone is helping. And one of the things that I've had the great privilege of doing is creating a completely silent, or you can listen to it with brook running in behind it, of an energy that helps people settle down and not be grumpy and it be more harmonious, and it's a peace and harmony. And you and I have talked about this before, but we've used, so we have a download, and I totally invite all of your people to go to it. You can go to peaceandharmonydownload.com. And it gives you 4 options to it. And one is an MP3 that you can just play on your computer or whatever device you're watching us now. There's also a video, silent video, that or the nature sound video that just automatically loops. So if internet streaming is not a problem, you can just stream that. And lastly, there's an app for both Android or Apple, a program called Pure Light Audio that I'm very grateful that they're hosting a number of my different quantum technologies, and one of them is the Peace and Harmony download. And actually, we just upgraded it last week. So if you have a previous one, get the new one. And that app will go on either device. And we were on my phone, and I can't guarantee it for all phones. Mine's an Android, the newest Galaxy one. It played whether the phone rang or even if I was watching a video on YouTube. It kept playing the silent program in the background.
Wow.
I don't know that that's possible on Apple. I have talked to dozens of programmers asking to give me an app that will allow that to happen, and they all say it can't be done because there's. So if anybody knows a way to do that or knows somebody who can program that, I would love it, because I'd love to just have it be one app that you could just click and use on, whatever medium. But it's peaceandharmonydownload.com. And people have used this. One gentleman was telling me that he was having with his wife, they were doing something, and all of a sudden she started to get upset about something. And he was watching her upset escalate, and he knew the pattern, that it feeds on itself. And he just pulled out his phone, put his phone back in his pocket while it was playing, and he just watched her calm down over the next 5 minutes. And instead of a big ruckus that evening, they just had a lovely time. And on an interview I did a couple of weeks ago, she kind of brought up in the middle of the interview that she's using it many, many times to stop family squabbles. And she also said that running it in her business has reduced customer complaints and that the people are just nicer. So this free unit is a great one. And we firmly believe that some of the mass shootings, if 50, 60, 70 people had been running it on their phone, that wouldn't have happened. That would have been too much harmony to allow somebody to kind of lose it to that extent. But we also make we also make bigger and bigger and bigger systems, and we have seen that we've used them to cause a hurricane to miss the entire state of Florida and actually go so far up the coast it fizzled out up near Nova Scotia into just a rainstorm without ever hitting the coast and damaging. We know in Oklahoma that it stopped tornadoes. We know in Texas where it stopped forest fires that were the worst forest fire in the history of Texas, stopped it from coming into the neighborhood where these people lived. So now, what if we gave this program, or we also have this programmed into little cards that you can buy, these Viru cards that just generate, it's not huge. It's maybe 10 feet around you altogether, so 5 feet in all directions. But what if you give that to all of the soldiers in an area? Or, one of these more powerful devices. What if we start, okay, here's the thought, and I know you and I have talked about this because I know you're doing this to an extent. What if we get all of the people who are broadcasting, no matter what they're broadcasting, whether it's a sports game or news or talks like this, what if we get all the people who are broadcasting to use an elevated level of the program so that every time people listen, it's generating that. Do you know what the network is of, and you get it at the station level, you get, what if Netflix just puts it on Netflix, period?
Yeah,
And Hulu
absolutely.
puts, okay, how fast is that going to solve this problem?
Well, I'm not a wizard in front of the curtain, not behind the curtain, but behind my curtain is, I don't know if you can see it there, is scalar wave technology running 24/7, right?
Right.
And broadcasting through the dodecahedron sound chamber. So I live in a sea of the quantum energies that are being broadcast, and they're going out on this show as well, right? Everything that
Right.
I do is those are running through the show.
And you're running my program.
And I'm running your program. Absolutely. By the way, I just have 3 out of the 4 up and running now, going for the 4th
Okay.
one. Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So congratulations on that. So you're helping, but you see how once it's up for you, you don't have to do anything else. You just go, you set it up. And in your case, because we're doing some advanced stuff and it's a bigger thing, it's a little more behind the scenes work, but truthfully, when you get all the pieces in front of you, is it more than 15, 20 minutes to set it up? And then it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And this show is watched by how many in so many different places. And it goes more than that because it's going through the wires, whether somebody's listening to it or not. It's going through the airwaves, whether someone is listening to it or not. And it may be weak coming from one thing, but it's there, you know? One candle gets rid of the darkness. Now, yeah, we would like floodlights and we would
Yeah.
love this to be everywhere. You know, it's not a goal because I'm not allowed to have it as a goal, but as a well-wisher, I would love to see, you know, millions of people have this free program.
Right. And it'll be available in the show notes. All the links will be there for people listening to this show to download it. And don't forget, if you want to upscale, like David said, there's different levels of this technology according to your budget, and also the, you know, this field that you want to create, the range of the field that you want to create can be, well, as huge as you want.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting because at some level they'll link into each other and create a global network.
That's exactly right. That's why we talk about when a bunch of people get together who all have it playing on their phones, then, you know, they multiply exponentially. It isn't that now you have 2 and it's double. It's now you have exponentially.
Right.
2 get together, it's the same, and just built and built and built and built. That's why, you know, one of the things that I talked about and the potential problem is every time your phone rings, if you're playing it on your phone and your phone rings, it'll cut off the program and then you have to turn it back on.
Right.
And you have to remember to turn it back on. And I get that gets old. That's why I'm trying to find, you know, somebody who can actually program it. But what if I could just get Apple to put it in every program, you know, or Samsung or whoever the manufacturers are? What if I could just get them to put it in every phone that's out there? Can we see how quickly this can be huge on every TV station, on Hulu, on all the old reruns, in every theater in the country? You know, what about running it through the...
What if you never had to worry about that? What if you already know that it's really redoing the whole iPhone? It's doing the whole phone. I mean, my experience with the scalar wave technology is every molecule has to vibrate to that frequency. It's only a matter of, so what if running that program literally gets every molecule in that iPhone or in that cell phone vibrating at a frequency, whether it's on or off?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely perfect. And I can tell you, because I'm in the middle of programming a device right now, it's off. And it's just the fact that it's on there in the background is definitely having a hit. And we have somebody who had one of those bigger units and they ran it for a while. And a year after they turned it off, this was a very big unit with a large monitor, like 55-inch monitor or something. They couldn't have the monitor in their room because it kept them awake at night with the amount of lively, purifying energy. It was just so bright, lively quantum energy, that they had to put it in a different room. And that was after it had been off for a year.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I totally appreciate what you're saying about, whether it's my technology or someone else's, let's just get it out there. And this is, I wanted to solve the problem. I agree with totally what you say, but I also want to point out that while not everybody does, a lot of people have an older computer sitting in the bottom of their closet, or they have a phone that I paid this much for the phone, so I can't throw it away, but I don't quite know what to do with it now that I've got 3 more since then, upgraded. Take that old phone and plug it in so it's charged, turn it on, and leave it in your drawer, leave it on your dresser, put it somewhere, and then it's doing it. I know some people that the family of, the mom, the dad, and 4 sons. And so they had a whole bunch of old phones, and they just put in dresser drawers all over their house, running it all the time, and then they notice a big difference. People come in and they're, and it goes through
That's
the
a great
phone.
idea.
So yeah, there's so many things to do. And I have been researching lately, because even the least expensive of my units is still, like $500 or something. And I want to get something lower and lower and lower. And part of the problem has been that not all MP3 players are equal. Some of them themselves are doing damage. They're the exact opposite of what we want. So I'm going to be putting up on the website in the next week or so here a list of lower cost upgrades, including MP3 players that people could, and I'll give you the link. It's not all about the money. It's about having the world. I mean,
Right.
I don't mind making a dime, but I also don't mind, in this case, we're good. I'd rather have you have it. So I'll give the offer of, these are the MP3 companies that we recommend, and here's the link to buy it. But if you want us to program it, I'll charge you a few extra bucks, and and that's fine. But I don't, just play it. Just play it. Just play it.
These are the little ones that we use. These are little Sansas here, right? They're about this big. And they're pretty reliable. I have to play with them every once in a while. I sort of become a master at reactivating when they go off. But they're running all 24/7, 365. And in my house, there's 1, 2, 3, probably 8 of them running programs, right?
Yeah. And I found one that I've already tested for, in the US on Amazon is under $50. And I have 2 others that I have yet to test. I got about half a dozen, 5 or 6 or something that I tested, and some of them are absolutely not. Didn't even have to take them out of the box. And some of them are like, yeah, this is great. You just put it on there. And so, if it's in your budget, buy one, and then you don't have to worry about the phone ringing. And if you don't want to do it technically and you want us to do it, we'll charge you a little bit more money. Or if you want a unit, we have a unit that's the $500 unit that this woman put in her house. And because it goes bigger. And she said there's 6 apartments in her building. The people upstairs used to stomp around all the time. And she said you could tell coming up to the building, the whole building had settled down. And she said, and the people stopped, nobody moved. The people were still the same people up there, but they stopped stomping around all the time, and squabbles within the building. And that went more than just that one apartment building into the neighborhood. And then we have, so we have the neighborhood versions, we have the, and it gets bigger. We have the community, and then we have regional, where it goes. The regional ones are the ones that we use for the forest fire and the hurricane and the tornado. So, yeah.
It's interesting for me, and we need to wrap this up, but the protection that we have here, we're now in 2 units. So when the 1 unit went down, we had all the mailboxes on our road got broken into. Up until that, since we had it, when we got it, I don't know what went, David, maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, we had nothing. There was no break-ins, no nothing on this road. As soon as it went off, then it's like, whoa, it's a free zone again, right?
Yeah, and that's how we know we were averting tornadoes, because it was the same thing. This was, I don't know, I want to say about maybe 6 years, no, 7 or 8 years ago now. They were having no tornadoes at all in Oklahoma for a very long time. Where this machine, where the device was, it got hit by an electrical storm. The house, there was an electrical storm. Power surge blew out one component. And at that time, we didn't have Amazon, we didn't have overnight shipping for a lot of this stuff. So it took us the 4 weeks to get the piece back to them, to get it shipped to us, programmed, shipped back to them, what was available and everything. And the thing was down just barely 2 weeks, and one of the worst tornadoes in the whole that ever hit cut a 250-mile wide swath right through the area. And as soon as they put it back up, again, everything settled back down. What was interesting is that, and on one hand, yes, I totally get the horror of it, but nobody died because of the residual effect. And yes, there was some economic damage, but at the same time, the guy who was hosting the machine was suddenly overwhelmed because he whatever it was that he did, I think something to do with electronics or something, whatever it was, he was suddenly overwhelmed with 24 hours worth of business every day, replacing everything that had been blown out by it. So economically, it was quite a boon to him, which I thought was very interesting and actually never put together till just now, because I was talking to him during this time, and he was like, I don't have time to talk. I've got too many of whatever it is to reset or to fix or whatever it was. And I just realized that he probably in the month that followed made a year's worth of income in 6 weeks or something. I don't know. I just thought of it. Anyway, I know you need to wrap up. What else can I tell? Any final questions?
Let's do a wrap up. So, heaven on earth can happen tomorrow, or we can have universal peace tomorrow. And throughout this call, we had some techniques or our hot tips, let's call them hot tips for lack of better words, that we put out there. So let's do a quick review. What are some of the hot tips?
You are responsible for your own life. Choose bliss, choose happiness, choose gratitude. Just make it a choice. Don't worry, start small. You blow it, you don't blow it. Don't be hard on yourselves. Don't beat yourself up with a stick. Just, oh yeah, I won't do that again. Real simple. And just start leaning into what is it that brings you joy, and noticing that you're enjoying it. So many of us go through the routine. We watch TV while we're eating a sandwich that we love, or, a meal. We're forgetting to take the time to enjoy that. I like this food. We've all had that experience where, who ate the last cookie? You did. Oh God, I love that cookie. That's from a Dick Van Dyke show in the 60s. I missed it. I didn't get to enjoy what I enjoyed. Right. So start noticing that you're enjoying something, and that just means
be present. Be in the now moment. Yeah. Okay.
Look for the things that bring you joy, and just skip over the things that don't. If somebody tells you a bad joke, don't pass it on. You're not obligated to. If somebody gives you bad news, let it die with you. Don't share it. Just look for the good, let the bad end and be dissolved, and be loving and gracious, and be a well-wisher of everyone you meet, whether you like them or not. Just choose to again, and this from you, Tyson, we don't know what people are here to accomplish. We don't know if those that we think are the worst people in society, we don't know if they're actually not the best beings from some angelic realm who are here to help, who are willing to sacrifice for others. We all, whatever our religion is, most of us are aware of the story of Lord Christ and how he went through a great discomfort and sacrifice for the good of others. And he's highly renowned in quite a lot of the world's population for doing something. And then you'll turn around and you'll look at somebody who's homeless or sick, or who seems to have one trauma happen after another, or he's bad luck, and you don't know that he might be that guy just taking it on from you, so you don't have to lose your child or lose your spouse or get fired or whatever. You have no idea. So give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Give everyone a smile. It doesn't cost you anything. Just be a well-wisher of those around you. And the other thing is, choose, not only don't pass judgment, but choose responses that bring you joy. When something happens, instead of going, oh, there's a 4-letter word that starts with S or starts with F that often people say when things go wrong, and you could instead laugh. Oh my God, I can't believe, the egg on the table. Oh my God, I can't believe. So that, and then, expect the best, expect that things are going to happen, because they are. When somebody tells you the world is about to end, you need to ask yourself, why are they telling you this? Why are they telling you this? Are they trying to make your day? I mean, seriously, why would somebody come up and tell you that? Why? And if they are doing it in some kind of preventative thing, it's saying, get ready, the world's going to end, then what should you do between now and the end of the world, which is not coming, but you should make the most of it. You should love your life. You should do the things that make you happy. You should enjoy, and you should be in bliss. And don't hurt anybody else. That's not part of bliss. And get peaceandharmonydownload.com and play it on every device that you have, and share it with everyone you know. You start playing this through the schools, through the prisons, through the hospitals. My God, can you imagine? And whether this one's mine, and great. And I'm, as I said, I'm very humbled that I got to do it. But if you don't like mine, find it somewhere else. Right. Tyhson I know your audience is very aware, because I know of the caliber of people that you have on your show. I know you offer your audience time and time again simple solutions to what appear to be powerful problems. And here's one. Next week, you'll have another one. The week after that, every time you'll have something that can help people. If you don't like mine, that's fine. Find the one that makes you happy. Find the one that works. Find the way within yourself to heal yourself so much that the divine has no option but to shine through you to those around you. Heal yourself, heal yourself, heal yourself.
And the planet will heal itself right along with you.
Yeah.
So thank you, David. It's always a pleasure. Nice to get caught up. And we'll add this to the David Adelson series of the Wellness Show interviews. So thanks. Great talk.
Thank you so much, Tyhson. I think the world of you. So thank you so much for having me again.
All right. Till next time, be healthy, wealthy, and wise. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you again.
For quality online wellness products, courses, and services, visit our sponsors, thewellnessstore.ca and the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy located at thewellnessacademy.ca. To stay in touch, visit us at thewellnessshow.ca. And until next time, be healthy, wealthy, and wise.